welcome back to another episode spotlighting different entrepreneurs on their business journey, on their story, and on their life. So I'm super, super excited to have my guest Morgan with us today. Morgan, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Macy. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. Well, Morgan and I met from a very, very, very cool experience that we did at the TEDx Cherry Creek HS stage in Denver, Colorado, just a few weeks ago. So not too long ago. It's still pretty fresh for I think both of us. And she just had an amazing talk discussing the masks that we wear in professional settings and really showing how we can build stronger relationships with those that we work with and just other people in our lives. So it was a really great topic, and she has a really great story. So I'm super excited to have her here. So Morgan, why don't you just kick us off and tell us just a little bit about your journey and kind of what brings you to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Macy. Before doing what I'm doing now, which is consulting and coaching and running my own business, I was the leader of a talent development team for a national organization for close to 10 years. So built that department from the ground up, and was really responsible for hiring the vendors in to deliver the trainings and running that portion of the team and our budget as well as everything else that goes along with organization and talent development. And I love that. That's what I have my degree in. And I just love the aspect of helping people maximize their strengths and leverage their skill sets in the job and be more engaged with what they do. So as kind of time went on, I decided it was time to kind of do something bigger, and so I stepped away from my corporate job to start building my company, Leadership and Training Concierge. So I could take these skill sets that I had learned and developed over the course of my career and amplify them, and not be tied to one specific organization, and service a lot of different individuals and organizations and teams and leaders across the globe. And so that's kind of my journey of where I was before and kind of how I made that leap to just that entrepreneurial journey that I'm on now, which led me to the TEDx stage. Just as I was growing and developing my business, I happened to come across a speakers bureau, and one connection led to the other, which enabled me to be able to apply for and actually get accepted for that talk. And what an experience! I mean, you and I went through it together. Intense summer of refining your talk and how to speak on a stage and getting over yourself and building that confidence. It was such a blessing to have that one-on-one coach support that we each received too through the process. And it's just a testament to how strong all of our talks ended up being at the when they were published and put out there. It was such a cool experience. I would recommend to anyone.
Definitely, and that's super cool. There's a few different questions swirling in my head right now, but I'd love to know, you've been a speaker before, you've done it, you've given presentations for, I imagine, quite a while. So you're very well versed in it, but how was it different doing the TEDx talk versus doing the presentations or the speaking that you normally do, or was it the same?
No, it's very different. With the TEDx stage, we had to memorize our talks. And granted,
Right.
our talks were only 8 or 9 minutes, but
Right.
it's still a lot.
It is.
And I remember when I don't know how you did it, but because yours was awesome as
Oh,
well, but
thank
I had you're welcome. I had mine taped in little paragraphs all over my house. And so every morning when I would get up, I would make my way down the hall. And even if I was just reading in my head, I would read it and then walk and read and walk and read. Um, and I tried the smell thing that our coach
you.
suggested, like wearing a certain smell when I was trying to practice. And for some weird reason, that seemed to help too. Uh, and I also put a little recording on my phone too. So when I'm driving, I was listening to it like a podcast over and over again. Very different. I've been training for 20 plus years. You give me a slide deck, you give me some high level notes, and if I know the content and have like a little bit of the research behind it, I can go up in front of the class and not wing it, but like know how to manage the classroom and facilitate that discussion to help
Mhm.
people learn. Uh,
Mhm.
and that was a really big learning curve for me through the TEDx, is that, yeah, you want to engage the audience, but there's no back and forth.
No.
No.
Yeah, and there's also like because so there's obviously people in the audience, but number one, people don't realize that, but the lights are so bright in your face, you actually don't see the audience at all. Like, I know there's a few like silhouettes I could make in the very front row, but you can't see people, so you can't see their faces, but also like a lot of it comes from they're recording it and they're going to post it to the TEDx YouTube, which means you also don't see those people's faces. So you can't actually tell if something's like going well or not.
Yeah.
Which I know a lot of speakers rely on that. I know I rely on that. It's like, oh, I can tell it's clicking, so I'm going to keep going if that makes sense. But you're like, wait, I need to slow down. You can't do that. It's
No.
it's already there. You just have to say everything. You have to commit to it. But that's such a cool process. I don't think I really have heard of a process of like taping it around your house, but that makes total sense. Where we walk through our houses. That's might as well.
Yeah, it came from, I talk a little bit about this in my talk in the very first 30 seconds, where for, a number of years I was the director of choreography for a performance group. And before that, I was in other performance groups. So I also have
Hmm.
kind of a history outside of my 9 to 5 job, where I'm in this dance world. And so the posting it on the different places on my wall is actually what I learned from doing choreography on the stage for performance,
Hmm.
um, where you want to move your body, and the way that you move your body and turning your body this way and that, you're almost creating a choreography out of your TED talk. So it's not just your mind that's getting involved, it's your whole body. So when I'm
Hmm.
talking about people creeping across the stage, like I would literally do that in my hallway and it looked ridiculous. And my kids would like giggle at me, but I'm like, you know what? Your mind remembers that because it's a whole body immersion.
Yep.
And that's what I've learned through TEDx that wasn't necessarily taught to us, that
Hmm.
I am now applying to every single speech and talk that I have going forward, is like, think of it like a dance choreography. Get your whole persona, your whole body, all that range of emotion involved. And then you're more dynamic on stage. And you're right, you can't see the audience. And if you can't interact with them, you have to know it well enough to interact with yourself.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I feel like for those who maybe weren't dancers or they weren't in some type of activity where they had to physically memorize something, it doesn't make sense when you explain it. But for example, like I was a figure skater for about 14 years. So I did a
See,
lot of choreography, right?
yeah,
I did dance as well, but I mostly did figure skating. And I remembered like I had when I was competing or when I was performing, like you just have to let yourself go and you have to let your body take over. And
yeah,
if you can't train your mind to just shut down and let it take over, then that's always when I noticed that's when I messed up, right? Like I would think too hard about doing this one trick, like one jump, and then, I would fall
yeah,
or I would stumble out of it. I'm like, why? That's such an easy jump. Like, why did I do that? It's because I was thinking about the jump before I got into it.
yeah,
And that was what I applied for TEDx as well. When I was doing the talk, is I would just stand in my room and every single movement I had mapped out. Like I was gonna turn here for this one, and for this talk, this point, I was gonna turn here and then there. So I knew it. So when I was turning, my body just, let it come out. Not that saying that, everything that we memorize is perfect, because we were warned, like, those nerves are gonna come over and it's gonna be okay. As long as people understand what you're talking about and they can
yeah,
feel it with you, then that's the huge thing. Really quick, because this is very interesting. I will give the disclaimer that not every TEDx stage is the same. So if
right.
you're watching this and you're going to be on TEDx, this might not be your experience. But we worked with a TEDx coach who really refined, like you were saying, our talk every week in and week out. We were changing it, we were editing it, we were, changing all these things. So I would love to know what was the idea that you submitted to Cherry Creek HS, and then which one did you really end up giving? And what were your thoughts on that?
What I applied, when I filled out the application, the talk was so night and day difference from how it ended up being. And we've never talked as a group about this on like if that was the same for everyone, but there was a theme around like the digital era
Mhm.
for TEDx Cherry Creek High School. Um, and I wanted so bad to connect something to that. So it was something about remote leadership, because I do a lot of coaching in that era. And then we were taught to, do kind of the up and down story and how to weave that in. I'm like, I don't really have a down story for that. And so then I got really personal. And I'm like, I don't think I want to go super personal, like airing trauma out on the TEDx stage. So let's see what other topic I can come through. And really, I had to work with the coach to figure out like where I could go. And the coach, just suggested, like what's top of mind for you? What audience do you want to speak to? And what kept coming up for me is connection, like those connections in the workplace, and how I just, I've learned this journey of how to just lower those masks that we wear and be more genuine, and how as a leader that's really helped me. And she's like, that's something we can do something with. So where's your stories around that? And going through that process really helped me kind of take stock of my own journey as a leader and put some things in perspective. So, yeah, night and day difference, but such a transformative journey for me as a leader in my own leading of others, that I probably wouldn't have realized some of those aha moments if I hadn't gone through that process in that way.
Yeah, and that's so cool, and that's why I wanted to highlight it because I remember when we first got on our first call, because for anyone who doesn't know, of course, is every other week we'd meet on Zoom as a group. So all 10 of our speakers, as well as our coach and the organizer for the event, we would meet and we'd all discuss, our topics, and we'd practice in front of each other and all these things. So the first week we ever met, she was explaining to us the formula that we were going to follow for writing our talk. And I'm so glad she did give us a formula because, I did have a talk. I've had a talk for a while that I was
Yeah.
constantly changing, but just having the formula that is an effective formula. It's a great formula. I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, I know exactly what is expected of me. I know exactly like the best way this talk can be given. So I was happy with it. But I remember so many people, and I remember you specifically being like, I think I have to rewrite my entire talk now. And I was so curious. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on there. Because
Yeah.
obviously, when you're preparing for something like this, I'm not going to go read everyone's talk and learn it and something like that because then it's
Yeah.
going to mess me up. But the final product was just so amazing. I remember being in that crowd and just being like amazed at your storytelling and just feeling that connection and feeling the pain with you, but also feeling like this is something that we can achieve. This is something we can get over together and we can work with each other for it.
Oh, yay. I'm glad it connected because that's always the fear of the speaker.
Mhm.
It's like, is everyone just kind of smirking at me in the audience? I can't see them. All I can see are bright lights in my face and a
Yeah.
dark room. Are they even there?
Like, who exists even?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if this was your experience, but there was a local high school that came out to support the TEDx event, and, I was talking to some of the students behind after the talk, and they were like, "We loved your talk," like
Yeah.
14, 15-year-old boys, like, not to stereotype, but obviously sometimes those are, like, the hardest people
Yeah.
to really get to, and they're like, "We loved your talk, it really resonated with us." And they're like, "We're gonna do you a challenge of talking to strangers." And I was like, "Oh my god, like, that's probably the best compliment I could ever get is not just, 'Oh, you did such a great job,' or 'I really liked it.' It's, 'I feel so impacted by your talk, I'm gonna go do this now.'" Like, holy crap, like, whether they do or not, I don't know, I don't really keep up with them right now. But I was just, like, stunned that someone could ever say that to me, I'm sure you feel the same exact way.
Yeah. Well, I think you were pretty motivational and practical, like 100
Thanks.
conversations in 100 days, like just do it. And I
Yeah.
think those of us that are introverts, we just need to push ourselves outside the comfort zone and do the thing that we fear and
Yes.
realize it's not like this big hairy monster, like it's doable. Um,
Mhm.
and like doing a podcast is one, having little mini talks with your friends and colleagues and people around the community is another. It's so achievable. So
Mhm.
I'm not surprised they came up to you afterwards. I had parents coming up to me
Mm.
during the lunch break that we had
Yeah.
after the talk, like making mention of my storytelling and how I emoted on
Yeah.
the stage, and asking me like what tips and guidance I could give their kids so that they
Yeah.
could embody their talks and performances too. And that was a big surprise because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing what like feels right to me. I don't
Yes.
have like a secret sauce, but I guess, like, what did our coach say? Like, what's common sense to us is not always common sense or practice to others, and
Right.
we don't really have that mirror to know what our demonstrated strengths are, so, uh, that was insightful to me too, like, "Oh, what a high level compliment that
Exactly.
that I'm having that impact, and I can teach others that going
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah, because you did teach us because we were all practicing and rehearsing, and our coach literally pulled Morgan in front of everyone and said, "Morgan, do it so we can all see and they can all learn." And it definitely made sense because you were, it didn't make sense for my talk to be as, yours
Yeah.
was very, very specific and there were different things. So it just made total sense. But I was like, yeah, I gotta have that energy. And especially I was the first one out of everyone to talk.
Yes.
So they were
So
like, "You really gotta bring that energy." And I'm like, "Really? I just wanted to get it over with." That's why I wanted to be first. I don't know about this other stuff. So when I started talking, like, "All right, this I gotta bring Morgan's energy to the stage." So yeah. Well, really quick before I wrap up, about a week ago, our talks were posted online, and you gave an amazing talk. I watched it again on YouTube, and I think I left a comment and a like and all those great things. How is it for you? How is life? You gave the talk, you were waiting for it, now it's out. Like, what are some of your feelings on that? I'd love to know.
well, after because we don't really see it. We did it, but we don't like see a proof of how well we did until it's released. And so I skipped a sentence and I thought I said something else wrong. So I was losing sleep. Like,
Oh
are they gonna post this where like I talk about team retention,
no. Yeah.
turnover, and I thought I had flipped some of those metrics to say like the teams experience more turnover if you're more authentic. And I'm like, no, I hope I didn't say that. And I hope they don't publish it. But all that was kind of set aside when I watched it. And I'm like, okay, it all went well. It's awkward seeing myself on video, but it went, no one's gonna know that I missed that one sentence and I actually did say everything right.
There you
Um,
go.
and the impact has been interesting, that I have been solicited for other talks here locally, just from
Wow.
folks hearing the TEDx. I've seen a lot of views in a short period of time on my TEDx and a lot of comments. I'm trying to be active, to be able to like and comment back, on them. Um, and I have a potential paid speaking opportunity, which is what speakers always, we do a lot of things for free because we like to do it. Opportunity in Florida in August next year. I don't know if it's near where you guys are at, but if it is, I'll be looking you up.
Yeah, of course, and we'll come watch. That'll be so much fun. Awesome. Well, that's so cool. So, Morgan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about your experience, about all of the cool stuff that you're doing. This is amazing to hear. So, I'll make sure I have Morgan's information as well as her talk linked in the description. Click, copy, and paste, whatever makes sense. Go watch her talk. It's an amazing one, and it's only like 7.5-ish minutes, 8 minutes. So it's drink a cup of coffee in the morning and
That's right.
listen to it kind of thing. Short and sweet and just hugely impactful. So, Morgan, again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And to everyone watching, I appreciate you as well. And I'll see you next time.